Hello, storytellers. We left the people of Israel trembling at the foot of Mount Sinai, witnessing the spectacular and terrifying display of God's power. Today, the purpose of that grand revelation is fulfilled. God gives His people the moral framework that will define them forever. This is the story of the Ten Commandments. After the dramatic display of thunder, lightning, smoke, and the blast of the ram's horn, the Lord commanded Moses to ascend the mountain again. But God didn't give the commands in secret. He delivered the laws directly to the entire nation. He spoke the words from the midst of the fire, allowing every Israelite man, woman, and child to hear the very voice of God. This moment solidified their unique relationship with the divine. The commandments were not merely suggestions for better living. They were the terms of the covenant, the foundational rules that would guide the Israelites' moral, spiritual, and communal life. The first 4 commandments dealt with how Israel was to relate vertically to their deliverer, establishing the primacy of God in their lives. First, you shall have no other gods before me. God alone is sovereign and worthy of worship. Simple, direct, and foundational. Second, you shall not make for yourselves an idol. They were forbidden from creating images to represent the invisible, incomparable God. True worship is directed toward the Spirit, not matter. This was a radical idea in a world full of idols. Third, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. God's name, representing His very character, was to be held with the utmost reverence. It was not to be used lightly, falsely, or to manipulate others. And fourth, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days were for work, but the 7th was for rest and dedication to God. It served as a constant reminder of God's creation and Israel's deliverance from the ceaseless slavery of Egypt. These laws set Israel apart from the idolatry and polytheism of the surrounding nations, demanding exclusive devotion to the one true God. Now, the remaining 6 commandments defined how the Israelites were to live horizontally with one another, ensuring justice, peace, and order within their community. Fifth, honor your father and your mother. This command protected the family unit, the core of society. It ensured respect for wisdom and authority, creating stability for generations to come. Sixth, you shall not murder. This was a sacred command to protect human life, which is made in the image of God. It's a non-negotiable cornerstone of a just society. Seventh, you shall not commit adultery. This protected the sanctity and integrity of marriage, which is the foundation of the family structure. It safeguards the most intimate human bond. Eighth, you shall not steal. This protected property rights and promoted honesty in all dealings, from large-scale commerce to personal possessions. Ninth, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. This protected justice in legal matters and preserved a person's reputation. Words have the power to build up or destroy, and this command demands truth. And finally, the 10th, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, wife, or anything he belongs to. This was the only commandment that dealt purely with the heart's intention. It aimed at the very root of sin, unchecked desire and jealousy. It proves that God sees beyond our actions, right into our hearts. After hearing God's voice directly, the people were completely overwhelmed by the fiery, awesome presence. They fell back and, trembling with fear, cried out to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not let God speak to us, or we will die." The people understood that holiness and sin cannot coexist without consequence. Moses reassured them that God's purpose was not to destroy, but to test and guide them toward a life of reverence. He then retreated into the thick darkness where God was. Moses remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. receiving the rest of the law, including the detailed instructions for building the tabernacle. The fundamental law, the Ten Commandments, was later inscribed by the very finger of God upon 2 tablets of stone, serving as the physical testimony of the covenant between the mighty God and his holy nation. So, what can we learn from this profound law at Sinai to build our own faith today? First, the Ten Commandments are not meant to be restrictive. They are protective. They're like guardrails on a dangerous mountain road. They teach us that true freedom is found not in ignoring rules, but in aligning our lives with God's perfect design for human flourishing. Second, love is primary. The structure of the commandments shows that your love for God, covered in the first 4, must always be the foundation for how you treat people, which is covered in the last 6. If you neglect that vertical relationship with God, the horizontal ones with people will inevitably fail. Third, the heart is the battlefield. That final command against coveting reminds us that God cares about our inner life, our intentions and desires just as much as our outward actions. Genuine faith starts in the heart, long before any action is taken. And finally, the law leads to grace. The law shows us God's standard is perfect, and in doing so, it reveals our total inability to meet it on our own. This understanding drives us to rely not on our own works, but on the grace and forgiveness offered through Jesus Christ, who fulfilled the law completely on our behalf. Thank you for joining us for this story. If this strengthened your faith today, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Which of the 10 Commandments do you believe is most challenging to follow in our modern world? Tell us in the comments.